Welcome to Philly Fortune Talks with your host, Jake Penny, where the city's brightest minds share the secrets behind their success. Are you ready to be inspired?
In this episode, we welcome Matt Brenner, a seasoned entrepreneur and martial artist school owner who has spent over a decade teaching children life's greatest lessons through martial arts, lessons often overlooked in traditional classrooms. Matt not only transforms the lives of young students, but also empowers fellow martial arts school owners to grow their schools organically without relying on ads. Tune in to learn how his innovative approach are shaping the future of martial art education and inspiring a new generation of leaders. Matt, it's a pleasure to have you on Philly Fortune Talks today.
I'm excited to be on here. Thank you.
So, Matt, you run a martial arts school and that teaches life's greatest lessons. How do you incorporate life skills into martial arts training for kids?
When it comes to teaching kids, we always felt like, yeah, you can teach them how to punch or kick or escape if someone grabs them, but it doesn't matter how much you teach like a 7-year-old. They're not going to outmuscle a grown adult. Okay, it's just not going to happen no matter what you see in Karate Kid. So what's most important to us is we feel like the character development that you learn from actually training in martial arts. So that's always how it helped me. And one of my favorite quotes is by Frederick Douglass, and he says, "It's easier to build strong kids than it is to fix broken adults." So we feel like the greatest lessons you learn as a child aren't really like taught in school per se. Like when you think about the lessons you've learned, it's never like, oh yeah, I remember that in my 4th grade math class. No, it's always like that kid who pushed you in the playground, or that a time you lost a really tough like baseball game or something. So for us, what we'll do is we take the character development skills that kids are going to need as they get older, specifically learning how to build grit, which is the number one indicator of long-term success for kids, is like how they can deal with adversity and get past it. So we'll purposely in the martial arts training put roadblocks in the way to make things difficult. And they have to overcome those roadblocks, those challenges, in order to earn their next stripe or their belt. And like that could be frustrating for a parent, especially seeing their child struggle. But we know that if they go through that struggle, like that's how they're going to build real strength. Not when things are fun or easy, but when things are tough and difficult, and then being able to get past that in a safe, controlled environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, in terms of life skills, there's a couple different life skills we focus on. The first thing is like building confidence, so them learning how to speak up for themselves, raise their hand when they have a question. Especially now in the digital age, kids spend so much time on just a screen or an iPad that they don't really have a chance to learn how to speak up, right? Unless someone kind of forces them. So we'll create scenarios in the classroom where they're able to, in the martial arts classroom, where they're able to build confidence, speak up, like have their chest out, chin up, right? Learn how to do a proper handshake. Like I know so many adults that shake my hand like like a wet fish, talking about you like that. And it's like, it feels weird in your hand. You want to go like wash your hands afterwards. Like we'll teach that in classes, like how to have a strong, confident handshake, web to web, like the web of your hand or the web of their hand, eye contact, nice and firm. These things are just not taught in schools. And it's a gap that we feel like we fill. So we'll do confidence. We'll talk about how to have really good focus. So have really good eye contact with someone, how to focus on one activity without going from one thing to the next. And especially with the digital age where you can't even watch a video, it's over 20 seconds before you swipe it, right? We're like in the 7-second age. Like you have the attention of a goldfish. It's so important for people to be able to sit down and focus on one activity and stick with it. So martial arts teaches a lot of these life skills. And like our way of teaching it is we'll give an example of how they can apply a certain skill in the martial arts classroom, also at school and also at home. And if we hit those 3 areas, then we feel like we've covered 99% of scenarios that they're going to encounter in their life. They're going to help make them successful.
Without a doubt. That's for sure. You hit the 3 places they are the most: school, home. What was the third one you said?
School, home, and of course that martial arts class.
That's where they're crafting their skills. But yeah, that's really awesome. What led you to focus on, teaching kids in your martial arts school. And, what do you find most rewarding about with like working with your young students?
Kids are just really fun to work with more than anything. There's a certain energy you get from being around youth. It's funny because I'm so used to being around kids because I've been doing martial arts my whole life and teaching it since I was a young teenager. But every once in a while, I'll talk to a friend who is like their only interaction with kids is like a nephew or niece, if that. And sometimes they have no interaction with kids. And I'm like, I have interaction with kids all the time. And I love it. Like there's certain energy you get when someone is in front of you and they're super excited. Not that adult like can't be excited about a martial arts class, but when you have a kid who's like 9, they like look up to you, it's a different type of feeling, right? And I've always like had a natural inclination to like enjoy like love teaching kids. Um, but now, what I do more than anything is I teach other martial arts school instructors, like part of my schools, and school owners who are outside our territory, how to recruit students into their schools. The kids, how to get them in their school organically, which for us means like not depending on gambling money on Facebook ads or Instagram ads and just hoping it works. So for us, like I just like enjoy working with kids. It's just fun. I have a couple martial arts schools, but my brother is the one who started the organization that I work for now, and he started it in 1994. When I came on board, there was already like 15 or 14 schools. Now we have 34 schools across
Wow.
the Philadelphia, greater Philadelphia and New Jersey area.
Wow. So yeah, you help martial arts schools owners grow their business organically without ads. Can you share some of the most like effective organic strategies that have worked for you and your clients?
So the problem is with growing your martial arts school is people become lazy and they try to rely on ads, automations. Oh, it's going to send this automated email, then this text, and it's going to be these perfect words and this picture. And that works sometimes. But the problem is that whenever you run an ad, I like to think of it as like if you're gonna go fishing. Okay, if you're gonna go fishing, and you're gonna run an ad, let's say on Facebook. It's kind of like fishing in a deep open ocean. So you're gonna go out there, you're gonna be on this big boat, and you're gonna put your bait on the hook. The bait is gonna be the ad, okay? And you're gonna cast out your bait into the open ocean. But the problem is that when you're out in the open ocean, there are a million other hooks and bait in the water, okay? And all the other hooks are companies that probably have budgets that are 1,000 times your size. Like if I'm a martial arts school owner, I'm not competing against just other martial arts schools. Like, that'd be good, but I'm really competing against like Tide and Coca-Cola and Apple, right? And their budgets are, a billion times higher than mine, right? And the problem is if your bait isn't like super pretty or it doesn't sound right or something's off about it, then people aren't going to bite. Or you have the wrong fish bite your bait, right? Like people who are not qualified or don't live in your area. And even if an ad does work, 'cause it's not like we don't run ads, of course we do, but we just try not to depend on it more than anything. Because what happens is if you run an ad for a business, no matter how great it is, eventually the ad's going to stop working. Okay. Even if it was a Yahtzee ad that got you a ton of leads or sales or new members, because there's something called ad fatigue. Okay. I don't know how to explain it exactly. I don't know what the reason behind the algorithm is, but eventually it just stops working. Then you have to start all over again. Or the social media company changes their algorithm. And
Yeah.
then you're scrambling for weeks or months trying to figure out like how to beat the algorithm again. Right. So that's what I consider like social media advertising and digital advertising, like deep ocean fishing. Okay. When you do organic, I like to think of it as you're putting bait on a hook and you're casting it in a barrel. Okay. So if you're in a barrel, it's where all your current or future prospects or members are already swimming. And you don't have to have the perfect bait or the most amazing ad ever because it's in a barrel. That's where they're swimming. They're going to bite. Okay. It's natural. So that barrel for us, for martial arts school owners, is going to be three places. It's going to be schools where kids are always going to be,
Mhm.
no matter what. And that's evergreen. Like there's always going to be schools. The second thing is daycares. It's going to be for the younger generation. So kind of like preschool, that would be the ages between like 3 and 6 years old. Some daycares going to be 2 years old and younger, but we don't really focus on that. We'll focus on kids who are 3 and up. Some school owners I work with only teach kids that are 5, 6, or whatever. So we'll kind of like focus a little bit less on that. And the third place is going to be businesses, so brick and mortar businesses. And what I do is I teach martial arts schools how to create a strategic partnership with the schools, daycares, and businesses. So they're actually able to create programming that generates new students for their martial arts location. So it's a lot harder than just throwing out a Facebook ad because I can make a Facebook ad in 10 minutes.
Right.
But the thing is, you're not gambling. Like it's not, you're not throwing money in a roulette table and hoping you hit red. It's like, okay, I'm putting my boots on the ground and I'm going out there and I'm creating partnerships. And instead of waiting for students to come to me, I'm going to go out and grab them. So I always rather be proactive than reactive. And it's not easy, but if you're willing to put in the work, you can dominate a local area because martial arts schools specifically, or if you run any type of brick and mortar store that focuses on like a 3 or 5 or 10 mile range, right? But where people are going to drive to. If you have a strong strategic partnership with local, let's say a school or daycare, if you work with kids or the businesses, business people know more people than anyone else. Okay. They have the largest networks, right?
Yeah.
You run a podcast, Philly Fortune Talks, you have a way bigger network than someone who maybe is a manager at Dick's Sporting Goods, right? Even the person who owns the deli that might get way less traffic because he's a business owner, he's just going to know way more people. Okay, they have big networks. So if you're able to tap into that and create a partnership with the local businesses where your prospects are going to be frequenting all the time, and you create a partnership with them, so they send you members and you send them members, so it's a symbiotic, then you're going to be able to have an evergreen, sustainable system to get new students in the door. That way, when ads aren't working, instead of you being like shit out of luck, you'll still be able to have new students coming in and not just totally rely on ads working because it's the most frustrating thing in the world. I've hired every ad agency in the world, and they always promise a million leads. And then sometimes it works for a couple months and then it stops or doesn't work for months and starts working and it stops working. And then you're just like stuck in the mud. And it's like a terrible feeling.
Yeah.
So, we pay for ads just like anyone else, but we don't rely on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it sucks too when like Facebook, for instance, changes their algorithm like that. And you have no control over it whatsoever. And it was working and now it's not. And it's immediately it just stops producing. And that's unfortunate, you know. But you mentioned that, many valuable lessons are taught outside the traditional classroom. What are some of the key, life lessons? You touched on a little bit, what are some more other, that you implement in your martial arts program?
I would say more than anything is the confidence that I mentioned, like learning how to just, if you're a teacher in a classroom, right? And there's a kid that barely ever raises his hand, or when they raise their hand, they always get the wrong answer. You're probably going to stop calling on that kid, right?
Yeah.
Or if they raise their hand like this, like you're probably not going to call on that kid very often because they don't look confident what they're about to say, and you don't want them maybe to be embarrassed, or maybe they're not saying the right example. And I'm not saying teachers do anything wrong specifically; it's just human nature to probably not pick on that person, right? But we can create an artificial situation in a martial arts classroom where we know, okay, Alex over there, he doesn't raise his hand for anything. We need to get him to raise his hand. And like before the class starts, we'll have a conversation. Hey, Alex, we're going to be practicing this kick today. I know you know how to do it. When we ask for a volunteer, can you raise your hand? And volunteer, and they go, oh, I don't know. And they go, oh, I know you can do it. We'll kind of like talk them into it. And whether they raise their hand or not, we'll kind of just call on them. And then they'll be kind of forced to be in front of the room and do that. And like that's how they're gonna be forced to go in front of the room and demonstrate, right? So that's how we'll create like a artificial situation where they're actually given the opportunity to do those things. right? And that child's not going to have the opportunity in any other situation, right? If you're on the soccer team and you suck, well, there's a couple things. A, like the other kids are gonna know you suck. They're probably gonna make fun of you or like tell you suck. B, the coach is probably not gonna play you that often, probably gonna ride the bench, right? Now, when you're really, really young, it doesn't matter as much to let everyone play, right? But as you get more competitive and you get older, like they don't let you play as much. And the beauty about martial arts is it's individual and like there's no riding the bench. Like everyone can have their chance to shine. Like we have students that are A students, we have students that are B students, we have students that are C students, just like any other school, right? But it's not like only the A students get attention, right? The B and C students get just as much attention, if not even more, because they kind of need it more, right? So that's the kind of situation where we force someone to be in front of a room and public speak. And when I was a kid, I was super shy. I remember specifically my sister. I have five sisters. Okay, so come from and actually three brothers. So come from a huge family. Okay, so family of nine. Yeah,
Wow.
wow, right. My mom is like a human pest dispenser. She just knocks them out. Um, so she so what was I talking about? Forgot where I lost my train of thought after the pest dispenser joke. Um, so so my five sisters, so I was like one of the younger ones, right? So when they had their friends come over, which all time they have their like girlfriends come over, I would be terrified. There'd be like people in the house. So I would like hide, like literally hide in closets where my family would look for me for hours. And I wouldn't say a word because I was just nervous talking to people. Like if we were at a restaurant and the waitress came over to ask for an order, I would like just stare in silence and I just wouldn't speak up for myself. And martial arts, getting in front of a room and being kind of forced to be put in front of the room and forced to say things out loud. Like we have in martial arts, you probably remember because you trained, you said when you were a kid, like we have like a kia, which is like
Mhm.
you make a noise out loud when you punch or kick. And the reason why we do that is because it forces you to breathe and which brings oxygen to your blood to help you move more efficiently, right? Just like a tennis player will grunt when they hit the ball, they go, oh. So it's just the same exact idea. But for kids, specifically for them, it's also good because it forces them to use their voice. And in a day and age where like kids use their voice less and less and human interaction is less and less, like these things become even more important because they're not going to learn it in school.
Right. Yeah. How important is community in the success of a martial arts school?
I would say because it's a martial arts school, like you can only have really anywhere between a successful martial arts school is going to have anywhere between 150 and 400 members, like kind of like max. There's some super schools that
Wow.
might have way more, but for the most part, a school, depending on how much they charge in tuition, and the demographic they're in, between 150 and 400, 400 being the way high side. Okay.
That's a lot in 400.
That's a lot. Yeah. Like most martial arts schools are not that. I'm talking about like really the best performers, right? Our average school probably has around like 250, something like that. Maybe 200-ish. So that if we get past 200, we're like good, right? Okay, cool. We're at like a good, depending on the location. So community, especially when it comes to organic marketing, is everything. Like whenever I get a school owner that comes to me, he or she is outside of our territory, right? Because if you're inside of our territory, I can't teach you these strategies because you'd be competing with us, right? So you have to be outside of it. Um, and if they come to us and they're like, hey, I live in a smaller town. I don't know if this is going to work for me. I'd be like, oh, that's great. Because this kind of organic strategy works even better for small towns. Because in small towns, word of mouth travels way farther, right? If you're in a big city, like, and you go to a good restaurant, like you might tell like your one friend, but like it doesn't really matter as much. There's like a million people, there's a million restaurants. It doesn't matter. But if you're in a
Yeah.
small town and there's like a great program or a great service, a great business, you're telling everyone. And if it's a bad service, bad business, you're telling twice as many people, right? So building a community in order to recruit new members, but even more important is to have like retention, like strong retention of your members, because that's how you're going to have recurring revenue every month and not just one good month and then like crappy months after that. Community building is going to be anything. I mean, I don't know any business that can function really maybe besides like maybe like your electric company or something. They probably don't need community to run, right? Like, but like any other business, I feel like is going to need for the most part a strong community, so you have loyal customers.
Yeah, without a doubt. Now, how has martial arts, shaped your own personal growth and leadership style over the years?
Well, like I said earlier, I was really shy as a kid, and I can't imagine I'd be able to public speak like I'm public speaking to you right now with confidence unless I went through that martial arts training. Like I'm small, I'm 5'6", right? I'm tiny. But I always felt like I could hold my own, and like no matter where I was and what year in school I was, whether I was in middle school or high school or college, I never really like felt threatened, right? Like, does that mean no one could beat me up? No, I'm not saying that. I'm sure there's people who can kick my ass, right? Um, I- but like, there's a certain confidence you walk with that I think prevents you from getting into those dangerous situations. Like, people can kind of like feel it, right? When I have my shoulders back, chest out, like you don't look like a victim, right? So I think it's like a more of a mentality or an energy
Hmm.
uh, that like transfers to other people, and that's what I really hope other kids get and adults get from training in martial arts. There was times in like high school where someone would try to bully me or push me around, and I like push them back or like stand up for myself. But like those are little small instances. Is that like kid gonna like kill me? No, maybe like punch me or something, but like I'd be fine. But what matters more is like, okay, I'm walking to dinner and it's 9 o'clock at night and I'm by myself. And like, there's maybe some guys walking the opposite direction, same side of the street on the same side of the sidewalk. And like, they're going to look to see who they're going to, maybe rob or, I don't know, assault or whatever, sucker punch. Like, they're going to pick someone who looks like a victim, not pick someone who's going to put up a fight. Right.
Right.
So, and also really the confidence to like not be instigated by like dumb drunk people at a bar. I think that's a pretty big one too. I was in a fraternity, went to Temple University in Philly, was out at places all the time. And when people act like jerks, or say something that's out of line, I wasn't my first instinct was like, oh, I know martial arts, let me kick their ass, like or kick them in the head. I'd be like, oh, the dude's an idiot. And now I just move on. Right. And I feel like that's kind of the funny thing about martial arts training is the more you know and the more like equipped you are to defend yourself, the less likely you're going to need to use it.
Yeah.
Right. So if anything, people will say to me sometimes who don't really know, they're like, oh, I don't want my kid to train in martial arts because I don't want him to learn how to hit people. It's like literally the exact opposite. If they learn how to do martial arts, they'll never have to kick or punch anyone.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that too, because it's like, you know, the things you learn in martial arts, and that's an array of different styles and whatnot. It's like, you can really bring harm to somebody for sure. And it's just like, it's better off to uh, digress a situation than actually progress it and actually go to fight or be like, oh, I know no martial arts. Let's just go kick some ass. And, next thing you know, you mess someone up pretty good. And it's like, oh, well, hey, here's a couple lawsuits for you. Have fun. Now,
Right.
now,
Exactly.
how's that going to make you feel when you spent all your years training for martial arts and all this stuff, and now, the hammer's coming down and, putting you behind a cell or charges against you or whatnot. It's not going to feel good.
No, it's not worth it to just show off how strong you are, how tough you
Yeah.
are. No one cares.
Yeah, for one moment, for the rest, that could potentially change the trajectory of the rest of your life. And
Well,
like, just walk away. That guy's an ass or whatever. Who cares? Just keep it.
yeah. So, I mean, you trained in martial arts before. How did it help you? Like you did a lot when you were a kid.
Um, it helped me defend myself. Um, there was times where I was jumped, or wrong place, wrong time. Um, and had to duck a few baseball bats here and there. And yeah, yeah, yeah. And my dad was like, this ain't gonna happen. So you're gonna go to, martial arts every single day of the week and, you know, uh learn how to fight well. and that if you ever get put in a situation, you can defend yourself and walk away after that. And that's what I did. Any other situation that ever came up that was in school or outside of school, I tried to digress the situation. Um, Never threw like first punches or whatnot or anything like that. I always, kept a distance. But if they ever threw the first punch, you know, um, that was it. And I did my thing. And if it was at school, I would just do my thing and walk right to the principal's office. Be like, "Hey, this just happened. He's back there. Um, I'll take whatever my penalty is or whatever you want to call it." And yeah, it all started with like a bullying. It all started like with bullying, right? I got beat up in middle school, got jumped, and it all started from there. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, I'm glad you had at least a good experience from it. I don't know anyone who's trained in martial arts for any extended period of time and said, "Oh man, it was really a waste of time. I wish I didn't do that."
No, I loved it. I did it all the way. I did martial arts all the way up till I was 18 years old. Went off to college. I went to Booneyville, Pennsylvania, Bloomsburg. So there was no good martial arts school up there, and kind of fell off. So I've been like, kind of wanting to get back into it as well, into Muay Thai, Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, stuff like that. Recently, because one, it's great exercise. And it's great for like mindset too. Get like you said, it gives you that confidence too in all aspects of life.
Yeah, I think it'll make you better at your work, make you better in relationships. Like, there's also a uh, a modesty kind of you get from it as well. Like, you're not just like, I kick someone's ass, you walk around all bravado. It's like you all of a sudden you'll train with someone who's like a nerd, who's like, my size, like 5'6", and they're whooping your ass, and you're like, oh my God, like I don't know anything, right? Usually those are the people that are like the toughest. The people that I know that are toughest, they're not like, all maybe like all tatted up and look scary. Like they look like they like read comic books. They're just like really, one of the best fighters is a jujitsu guy. Is a guy named Mike Masamuchi. He looks like a nerd. Like, he doesn't look like anything. If you saw him down the street, like, you would never think of anything. But like, he would like literally murder me in about 10 seconds. At 10 seconds being generous, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, and there are people that look scary that are also good at martial arts. But like,
Definitely.
it's cool that you get kind of both.
Yeah, but it's definitely like, you don't see, for the most part, like you think someone's scary, like, like for instance, like you said, you're walking down the street, you're by yourself, it's late at night. Like, definitely you see some guy covered in tattoos, you're gonna be like, ah, shit. He's
Yeah.
like a gang member or something like that, when like could be, not a threat whatsoever. But then, like you said, you see a nerd walking down the street. He's not so nerdy once he starts throwing hands or doing his moves and stuff like that. He'll put any
Yeah.
guy down on the street, right?
Yeah.
That's around him. But yeah, that's the art of martial arts. Yeah, as we wrap up here, what's your long-term vision for your martial arts school, your business, double your dojo, and how do you plan to keep growing and impacting more lives?
So for me, the martial arts schools that I have, I just want to sustain. For me, it's important that the instructors there are able to make a career out of training in martial arts and teaching martial arts. In terms of the consulting side, the W Dojo, what I want to be able to do is help martial arts school owners stop feeling like they depend on ads to run their business. Okay. So if I can sell martial arts school owner, like, the promise I always make is like, hey, if you follow the system I teach you, you can have 16 new students in 16 weeks without spending a dime on ads. So my goal for them is teaching them like an evergreen system that they could do year after year after year, not some ad that's going to work right now, work for the next couple months or a couple weeks. No, like, I'm going to show you an organic student getting system that you can use every single year over and over and over, no matter what town you're in or how many people are in your city. It doesn't matter. Okay. Now, to be fair, if you're in like Manhattan or something, or in a downtown city area, you probably don't need this. You probably have enough people that walk by or just call. Okay. It's really like the more in between, like the suburban schools, or even like on the border city schools and more rural areas, they're going to need like grassroots efforts. If your school is like a downtown area, you probably get a billion leads all the time. You probably don't need it. Like some of our schools are in downtown Philadelphia. They don't really need this as much. And they just have a lot of leads. Like their marketing is paid for in their location, in their real estate, right? But if you're like, hey, I want to be able to grow my martial arts school, and I don't want to necessarily depend on ads. I want to learn an evergreen system I can use year after year after year. It's sustainable. So I have strong recurring revenue and not depend on some service that I don't understand, but I actually go out and make it happen. Then this is going to be I'm going to be the right person for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does one get a hold of you to learn more about your services, your martial arts school, double your dojo?
Yeah. So the easiest way really for me personally is just message me on Instagram at blackbeltbrenner1 at blackbeltbrenner1, or email me matthew@wyourdojo.com. You can also visit wyourdojo.com and you'll see a video I made about kind of how the system works. The system is called the Triangle Codex because there's 3 parts to it: schools, daycares, and businesses. So 1, 2, 3. And yeah, that's the system we use.
Awesome, Matt. Well, it was a pleasure having you on Philly Fortune Talks today.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Philly Fortune Talks with Jake Penny. Inspired to share your success story? Visit phillyfortunetalks.com/guest and let's inspire together.